final round of the British Minibikes Championship in 2025 comes from Three Sisters in Wigan. Highlights from 8 classes at this final round include some not seen already this season. The first race is for the official FIM 190 and 190/70 class. Here's Jake Sanson with the grid positions.
Starting off with the FIM 190 riders, Wilson Dilks and Tyler Humphreys on the front row of the starting grid, then Hudson Cooper and Charlie Cunningham. The 5th man in is Lucas King. Then going to the MiniGP 190/70 class, it is Joshua Herring and Harry Rafferty on the front row of the grid. Ollie Everts and David Wilton are going to be charging in further back. 2 classes in 1 grid, so it's going to be a fascinating battle as ever. Wilson Dilks was only 25 hundredths of a second quicker than Tyler Humphreys in qualifying. And in the MiniGP 190/70 category, Josh Herring and Harry Rafferty are fairly similarly matched as well. 2 race grids in 1 bout. Let's see how things kick off with the FIM 190s. Away we go, and it's an absolutely rapid start from Charlie Cunningham, who goes right round the outside of the entirety of the field and moves up into the lead. What a launch from Charlie Cunningham as they work their way through on this tippy-toe first lap. Very greasy and slippery conditions out there. It already looks as though Lucas King is dropping back from the pack, but Charlie Cunningham has absolutely monstered it around Dilks, Humphreys and Cooper, and now it's up to them to show the confidence to bounce back. So the 190/70 category, the 4 riders, Josh Herring, Harry Rafferty, Ollie Everts and David Wilton getting up to start as well. Split grid start as always, back with the FM 190s, and Charlie Cunningham leads the way in unbelievable fashion here. What a launch for Cunningham. Really got himself into a very decent position there and launched forward. He leads Dilks, then it's Humphreys and Cooper with Lucas King dropping back all the time. There's only one thing that matters in conditions like this at Three Sisters: confidence. You have got to have the measure of yourself, your bike and the extremities. We can see some spots of rain still on the camera lens, so it's not easy for these riders to run in proximity. Rafferty leading Herring in the 190/70 class. Everett still there in 3rd ahead of Wilton. Not much has changed there at all. So back to the FIM 190s, and Charlie Cunningham is just disappearing in these conditions. He has just got what it takes. It is not easy to run at the front and disappear, particularly in a competition as competitive as the FIM MiniGP 190s. This is the road to MotoGP, and Charlie Cunningham couldn't have given himself a better advert for 2026 here. What an incredible run. So Cunningham leading and pulling away. 2.5 seconds already clear of Wilson Dilks. Then it's these two squabbling away. They go up over the top of the rise. This is such a challenging circuit in the wet conditions, using the wider run. So it's definitely going to be very tricky indeed to denote who is going to have the better of it. But what a tricky race this is in these conditions. The riders have absolutely nowhere to hide. You have got to be so focused in these very tricky conditions indeed. Through Lucy's Valley. The left-hander, and you can see that Hudson Cooper really is piling on the pressure to Tyler Humphreys as they go up towards the S's, left, then right, then left again as they head onto the Rogerson Straight. This is where it can get really greasy in these treacherous conditions. The lean angle is pretty good though, as the leaders in the MiniGP 190/70 are still having a fairly decent run of it up front as they go into Lucy's Valley. Rafferty from Herring, Everts and Wilton, no change there. Humphreys and Cooper, who have been almost at each other's throats all season, are still dueling as they work their way around Pentith Climb. And then they'll go up to the top of Coward Summit and drop down into Paddock Bend. Not easy to get this one done. Into the pit bend first of all. And that brings them past the pits, and then they will go to the hairpin at Paddock Bend. So this is such a difficult circuit, and it is starting to rain again. So Humphreys and Cooper are essentially now just racing on instinct. This is a very difficult race circuit in these conditions. Even at Rowra, they wouldn't have found it as tricky as the conditions we have here, because it's so changeable lap to lap. And of course, you've also got the air temperature to take into account. It's August, so we've got the intensity of the heat as well. It doesn't make for an easy time of it. As through go the MiniGP 190/70 riders, Rafferty, Herring and Evans, and I think they've got ahead now of Lucas King in the FIM 190s, who's really not finding it easy in these conditions. Don't forget, you don't have any club racing at this level of motorsport. In these mini bikes, it's the British Championship or the sidelines. 10th climb, up along Coward's Summit. Has Hudson Cooper got the goods to go for Tyler Humphries as we watch on from the drone? Yeah, you just can't throw that kind of weight into these corners and expect it to balance. It's a bit of a chicken game at the moment, as these two riders are essentially toying with each other in the apexes to try and figure out who's got the gusto, who's got the determination to make it work. So tippy toe all the way through. Hudson Cooper still can't quite get the measure of the front row man Tyler Humphries, but they've all been completely outgunned and outfoxed here by Charlie Cunningham, who is just riding away to the distance. Look at the rain back at the pit straight. This is very tricky indeed for the MiniGP 190/70 riders to navigate, as on the inside. Oh, bit of a look there from Ollie Everts. He had to think about it on the inside of Josh Herring. It wasn't going to happen on this occasion, but the treble one, Harry Rafferty, still controls it in MiniGP 190/70. Here is the FIM 190. Still this battle for third between Humphries and Cooper. They go round the right, up Pentith Climb, and then they'll drop out at Coward Summit. Again, Cooper just doing everything he can to get that little closer to Tyler Humphries. But all Humphries has got to do is place his bike on the racing line. He doesn't even have to push too hard here. They've got to look after tyres. But ultimately, Humphries has got the keys to the podium here. This is all about Hudson Cooper trying to throw something really unexpected into the mix, and that's the only way he's really going to get the measure of Tyler Humphries on this circuit in these conditions, because you can't just go gung-ho and throw the bike up the inside and expect the tyres to grip. This is all on instinct, and every corner, those grip levels and that ability to get the traction around the apex is going to change each lap. No worries at all for Harry Rafferty still. He's got that crucial little bit of a gap to move his way further forward. So all going well at the moment, but you do get the sense that things are going to change. Rafferty has now got Evans behind him. Evans, of course, trying to work his way forward, having got ahead of Josh Herring now. So the 61 bike, trying to get the measure of it. And back again, we've got Hudson Cooper all over Tyler Humphries. Still, he can't find the way through into the pit bend, along the pit straight, and up to paddock bend. He tries every trick in the book, and every time he's got to move, Tyler Humphries has got a response. This is really neat riding from both men at the moment. They have got the measure of each other, and this is exactly what they need to do. It is stalemate. A really slippery, really rapid game of chess between these two riders as they go through the S's again, and they will approach the Rogerson straight. Humphries is aiming to stretch away from Hudson Cooper. Cooper is hoping that he tightens his grip as across the line. Further back, that is still the battle in the FIM 190/70. Everts now in front of Rafferty and Herring. They're still battling away. Here comes Hudson Cooper. He fancies his chances on the back of Tyler Humphries. There's not a lot he can do to resist now. He's finally made it work out of Luna, and through he goes, having set that up beautifully along the Conrod straight. Up into third place now goes Hudson Cooper as we watch the battle further back in the pack. Back with the MiniGP UK 190s. It has been a very interesting one, as Everts has taken the lead. We know that. Rafferty ahead of Herring. And then it is David Wilton who is trying to close up on Lucas King. But now we've got the leading runners working their way through the traffic. And Rafferty's back in front. I just saw him there. Rafferty ahead of Everts. Saw him in there in the distance. So in FIM MiniGP UK 190, it's still Charlie Cunningham. In the MiniGP 190/70 BMB category, Rafferty is back into the lead ahead of Everts and Herring. We're getting into the closing stages now of this race. There's nowhere to hide for Wilson Dilks. He now knows he's got Hudson Cooper all over the back of him in the closing stages, and he will be pushing hard here. Working his way through the traffic nicely, and that gives him a bit of breathing space to Tyler Humphries. They get past David Wilton. Last lap for the leader in the FIM 190 category. That is the road to MotoGP, and Charlie Cunningham has pulled off an absolute blinder here at Three Sisters. But the battle for second still goes strong between Wilson Dilks and Hudson Cooper, with Tyler Humphries waiting in the wings in fourth position. They work their way through Paddock Bend. They'll go up towards Lucy's Valley. This is where a really tricky opportunity could open up here for Hudson Cooper, but he's being calculated. He sits behind Wilson Dilks, still trying to find that move. Tyler Humphries is staying hungry. You never know what's going to happen at Three Sisters. Just keep going through the S's and along the Rogerson Straight. But out front, it is a dominant victory in the offing for Charlie Cunningham. There's the leading battle in MiniGP 190/70. Still nothing in it between Rafferty, Herring and Everts. But Charlie Cunningham takes the checkered flag dominantly here at Three Sisters. Oh! Hudson Cooper! Third position! Last lap, he's gone! I cannot believe it! Last corner, last lap, and it's thrown away. Dilks gets second, Humphries gets third, and Cooper is out on the final bend. As dramatic as you like, Charlie Cunningham picks up the win then from Wilson Dilks and Tyler Humphries in FIM MiniGP UK 190. In the MiniGP 190/70 race, just half a second separates Rafferty, Herring and Everts. There is more fantastic action on the way here at Three Sisters in just a few moments. Next up here at Wigan, it is the Minibike 160 and veterans. Tommy Fielding and Jake Whitaker take to the front row of the grid from Cameron Caulfield and Tim Patterson. Then it's Lee West alongside Sam Morrison, Dave Cook alongside Mike Carr. Aaron Parker and Chris Grieve round up the top 10 ahead of Ben Johnson and Chris Heimers. Then it's Matthew Lindley and Jamie Smith from Barry Clark and Aidan Walker. Connor Smith is alongside Nicky Margetson. Then we have Jordan Grunt and Michael Judkins. Adam Hilton is there alongside Pete Johnson on row 11 from Jim Pallister, Cameron Hawes, Barry Lindley and Ben Nixon rounding out the field. Tommy Fielding, pole position. He was the fastest in the warm-up this morning as well, so expect him to be strong from the outset. The 5.56 is looking to dominate this one from the front, but the 1:21, Jake Whitaker, was only half a second slower than him in the qualifying session in very changeable conditions, so don't expect him to back down from the fight. It will be tricky to see if Tommy Fielding can get this one going away. Off we go into the first turn, and there's a little bit of pressure on him to lose out to Cameron Caulfield as they run through the paddock bend, for the first time. But so far so good for Tommy Fielding, who is just in the position he absolutely needed to be, leading the way on the first lap. Gives you the best advantage, of course, and as they work their way through the S's for the first time, the Minibikes and Vets are just working their way through. No rush, no bother, just get through the first lap, settle yourself into a rhythm, and then you can see the lay of the land and figure out just how much pressure you want to put on yourself. So Fielding leads Whitaker, Caulfield, West, Grieve. Hang on, where's Caulfield gone? Cameron Caulfield was there in third position, right behind Jake Whitaker. It's just out of sight of our cameras. I think he's dropped it at Luna, you know, on the way in. Either just on the exit of the left-hander after the Rogerson Straight. Yeah, Caulfield is right down at the back. He's not come through. So Cameron Caulfield, who was there on the 113 in third position, now finds himself pretty much dead last now of the 21 riders. Yes, he is dead last. So he's come through about 20 seconds after the rest of the field tiptoed by. What a shame for Cameron Caulfield, who is now down at the back from what was third position on the grid. Chris Grieve dives on the inside. Thank you very much, Lee. I will take that position from you. Thank you very much. Into third position goes Chris Grieve at Lucy's Valley. Nice overtaking opportunity there as he dives in on the inside of the left-hand hairpin. And again, confidence is key. So Fielding now leads Whitaker, Grieve, Lee West, Mike Carr, then Heimers, Patterson, Morrison, Smith, Walker, Margetson and Ben Johnson. So still some good performances then as everybody trying to work their way back. How much can Cameron Caulfield really hope to do here? I suppose he can work his way through the midfielders, but he's eventually going to run out of puff by the time he gets up to the top 5 again. So this is going to be a real comeback charge from Cameron Caulfield. But Fielding and Whitaker now putting well clear of Chris Grieve, who is in third position, then West, Carr and Heimers. And Dave Cook has had a really scruffy lap. He's lost out about 3 places there to Jordan Grant, Connor Smith and Barry Lindley. Look up the inside line. That's going to be tight on the corner between Mike Carr and I think Lee West. Having a great battle. Has he got in front of him? Yes, I think he has. So Mike Carr dealing with Lee West for the moment. The drone pictures pick up how easy it is to run in these close proximity battles, but it's still not over yet, and back in front. Oh, nice squabbling. Really good dueling here as Mike Carr is now struggling to fend off from Patterson, and that's Heimers in the mix there as well now. Out in front then, Tommy Fielding pulling clear of Jake Whittaker, and there's nobody in sight as Chris Grieve finally comes into shot. He's pulled clear of West, and that is Patterson, Heimers, Carr, and then it is Sam Morrison. So it really has shuffled a bit on this lap then in that top 10 battle. Patterson taking the wider trajectory to keep himself there in front of Chris Heimers as they go up Pentith Climb, dropping down Coward Summit. Don't rush this, take your time. Tim Patterson just knocking on the door of Lee West on the red bike with the yellow and white leathers. Trying to dive his way up the inside line though. Chris Heimers fancying his chances here on Tim Patterson. This could be a battle that rumbles on and on through this race. Diving at the inside, can Heimers take Patterson? No, he does not. He can't quite make it stick because Patterson has the measure round the outside line. Trying to chop across and keep himself in the mix here. He's got to be so careful though. His next target is going to be Lee West. So West is taking his time. Meanwhile, further down in the pack, we've got a great squabble. This is Cook, Pallister and Cameron Hawes, as Cameron Caulfield is now in amongst them. So Caulfield has worked his way further forward. His last lap, by the way, was in the 1:14s compared to everybody else who's in or around the 1:12 or so mark. So he's struggling to find the pace there in the traffic. He's got two riders in front of him, Pallister and Hawes, that are slowing him up, but Caulfield is not going to make a massive amount of progress from here, which is really unfortunate. He's already got ahead of Dave Cook, but he's going to really struggle to make more progress than that as he works his way further forward. I think Cook's had an incident somewhere which has dropped him down to the back. We'll figure that out once he comes through the timing line. But certainly for the moment, this battle's still raging, and it's Patterson who's now in front of West, and it looks as though Chris Heimers is going to join him. So Patterson's got ahead, Heimers has got ahead as well. Lee West dropping from 4th place to P6. That is unfortunate there for the leading veteran. But Lee West is in a race of his own technically in amongst the veterans. He still wants to prove himself though up in the overall top 5, so he'll be a little bit disgruntled about losing out to Patterson and Heimers. Fielding still the top banana, Whittaker second, Grieve, Patterson, Heimers, and then the two veterans, Lee West ahead of Mike Carr, side by side. This is going to be brutal from Chris Heimers as he dives in and grabs the place from Tim Patterson into P4. Great bit of riding from Chris Heimers. Again, he just had full confidence that he could make it stick. Very tough to keep your confidence levels high in these conditions when the circuit is changing all the time. But it's Fielding, Whittaker, Grieve, Heimers, Patterson and West. So far so good. Tommy Fielding still the form maker here in front of Jake Whittaker. The riders are still giving us plenty to get excited about here. That was a quick flash there of Chris Grieve, still running in 3rd position, trying to keep himself in touch with Tommy Fielding and Jake Whittaker. You can find it so easy to make mistakes around this particular circuit. It is really tricky to get it right. And just when you think you're settling into a decent rhythm, you find that it's actually really tricky. Oh, Chris Grieve washes out at Luna. That is so easily done, and he will lose ground then as through will go Heimers, Patterson and West. And all of a sudden, Chris Grieve, who had a podium in his pocket, now has Chris Heimers, Tim Patterson and Lee West all sailing past him. It's so easy when you get on the throttle out of that final corner. There are several lines you can choose from, and if you just catch the wrong track out of that particular turn, it really will unsettle the bike big time. So Chris Grieve learns the hard way that this is a track that bites back. Bit of a twitch there and a little bit of a run wide as well from Patterson behind Chris Heimers, but fortunately he was far enough ahead of Lee West that it didn't really cause him anything. Didn't cost him anything in terms of battles on the track or even really time. So he just manages to gather it all up again. not an easy position to find yourself in. You're battling away for the top 5 in such an overly competitive class as this one. But Tommy Fielding, fastest man in the warm-up this morning, fastest man in qualifying. He's just been absolutely serene around this place, lapping a full second faster per lap than any other rider. And Whittaker on his own is going a second a lap faster than the likes of Heimers, Patterson, West and Grieve. So that shows you just how quick Tommy Fielding is in these conditions. He's just dominant. Lapping about a second to a second and a half faster, and up the inside, that's Tim Patterson. Patterson gets the move there at Paddock Bend. Into third again, ahead of Chris Heimers now, as Lee West and Chris Grieve have started to drop back fairly consistently, but this is the battle for third position yet again here at Three Sisters, as it's Tommy Fielding a long way out in front, Jake Whittaker in second place, and they go into the final lap, separated by 11 seconds, and then there's another 9 seconds back to this battle for third between Patterson and Heimers. And Patterson is definitely in the zone, having got ahead of Chris Heimers now. I don't think he's going to let that slip. But Tommy Fielding has been the man on form here at Three Sisters. Just takes his time as he works his way through these final corners. Still this battle raging between Patterson and Heimers, but I think it's going to go the distance. Excellent bit of riding as Tommy Fielding on your screen is going through the traffic. And the 5.56 is just taking this nicely in his stride. He has not even looked phased at any point through the course of this particular encounter. He's been the man on form and he's been absolutely supreme. That's Barry Lindley, the last man that will stay on the leading lap behind Tommy Fielding. Still squabbles further back, but it is going to be the dominant force. Tommy Fielding will come out of Luna. Here he comes, takes the checkered flag. Tommy Fielding makes this race his own, a full 12 seconds clear of Jake Whittaker.
The 4 results in each of the classes look like this. Minibike 160, top 10. Tommy Fielding, Jake Whittaker and Tim Patterson took the top 3 positions. The rest of the positions, as you see on screen. And then in the Minibike Veterans class, it was Lee West that took the win from Mike Carr and Ben Johnson. We'll be back after the break.
Time to pick back up with the FIM Road to MotoGP classes. It's MiniGP UK 160, Matthew Thomas and Max Robinson on the front row of the starting grid. Josh Herring is alongside Leo Soliu for this one on row 2. Then it's Riley Robinson and Austin Wilton ahead of William and Charlie Dickinson. There is no Sebastian Goslovski, sadly. He was entered into the weekend, but he's had to pull out at the last minute, so we will not get to see the spectacular stylings of Sebastian Goslovski. The number 1 bike is no longer here. That means then that it's going to be a battle between Matthew Thomas and Max Robinson from the outset, with Herring, Soliu and Riley Robinson hoping to pick up the scraps. So we're going to get ready for the start. Matthew Thomas to the inside on the left of your screen, Robinson to the outside, and it's Max Robinson who charges into the lead around the outside and picks up the slack. Excellent work from Max Robinson so far as he completely catches Matthew Thomas out. Thomas was only half a tenth of a second quicker than him in time qualifying, so there really isn't much to choose between these two riders on 1 lap pace. So now the momentum is with Max Robinson. Very important that this plays out the way it should for Robinson now. He's got the control, he's got the position, so all he has to do now is just find his way gradually and rapidly around this course without too much difficulty as he works his way through. Oh, that's Matthew Thomas! Matthew Thomas drops it! The pole sitter has gone at Luna! And it's the junior categories, you cannot pick the bike back up! Matthew Thomas from pole position to the sidelines in a little more than half a lap. You have got to feel for Matthew Thomas as we watch the battle for third between Josh Herring and Riley Robinson go up Pented Climb and down Coward Summit. And because of the weird timing system that we've got here at Three Sisters, where the race is 8.5 laps rather than 8 laps, Matthew Thomas actually crashed before he reached the timing line. So that means he technically hasn't started this race. Although, of course, we can see for ourselves that he has. because he crashed it going through Luna. What a bizarre way for Matthew Thomas's race to end, and he's technically not going to be classified as having started it, which he clearly did. So Max Robinson leads the way here from Leo Soliu and Josh Herring, with Riley Robinson in P4. But Matthew Thomas, that is devastating bad luck. Meanwhile, out in front, Max Robinson is just dominating. He's checked out. He doesn't have to worry about Matthew Thomas anymore, so he can have some fun, as here comes Riley Robinson round the outside of Joshua Herring. Brilliant from Riley Robinson. That is exactly what he wanted from this start. He's found his feet, he's got the confidence in the bike now. So Riley Robinson moves up into third position then on the way down the Conrod Straight. So that is going to be a change of positions as they come across the timing line this time by. So technically only 7 bikes raced in this one, although of course we know for a fact, having seen it with our own eyes, that 8 did. Poor Matthew Thomas. That's not the way he deserved his race to go. Over before it even started, literally. So Riley Robinson is now trying to get away from Josh Herring. We watched the two of them on your screens. It's a very brief lull in the weather here, so it's not actually raining at this point. And there are parts of the track drying out, as there is Matthew Thomas's bike being pushed away by the marshals. Well done to the Orange Army, but that is a very sorry sight indeed if you are Matthew Thomas. Not what you wanted at all. So there are Robinson and Herring. Leo Soliu's already gone through, and the gap between Max Robinson and Leo Soliu after 2 laps is 9.6 seconds. He's lapping in the 105s to 108s at the moment, whilst everybody else is lucky if they can get it under 110. Absolutely astonishing pace from Max Robinson at the moment, but we've said this time and time again in the British Minibike Series, this is the level that you can race at. There are no club events, there are no regional competitions at this level. You've got to just throw yourself straight into the British Minibike Championship paddock and hope that you'll swim instead of sink. Certainly Riley Robinson is doing a fair job in front of Josh Herring at the moment. That was Austin Wilton just coming through in the background. But Leo Soliu has got the pace sky high here and is doing a great job to run further forward. As we watch the duel going on further back, this is between Wilton and Charlie Dickinson. William Dickinson in 7th position, still doing a fair job, but sticking to his guns and running at a fairly leisurely pace by comparison. But as we said before, you've got to learn, and you have to learn, rather sadly, on the job. So Robinson still riding the most unbelievable race as he continues his pace up front. Now, interestingly, the very first lap of the race, the first completed lap, was in the 105s for Max Robinson, and now he's dropped his pace right back into the 109s. I don't think he has to push, so why should he at the moment? He's just taking his time in the lead. He doesn't have to rush this, so he's backed right off the pace. I don't think he realised until he'd already passed him that Matthew Thomas had gone. So I would suspect that this is now Max Robinson just taking his time and chilling out a little bit. No chilling out at all for Josh Herring. He wants to get back on terms with Riley Robinson as they go out of Lucy's Valley up to the S's. It'll be left, right, left, and then back onto the Rogerson Straight. But Riley Robinson, having got into that 3rd position, dearly wants to keep it. But this is not going to be easy to accomplish with someone of the mentality of Josh Herring snapping at your heels all the way round. But there is your leader, dominant as you like, Max Robinson. He's been almost lucked into the lead. I mean, he certainly charged forward and beat Matthew Thomas going away, but the win has been fairly easy going for Max Robinson ever since that moment after the fall for Matthew Thomas on the first lap through Luna. But this battle isn't over yet for 3rd position, as again Riley Robinson has to defend. Josh Herring's going to try and commit into pit bend. Oh, so difficult to get that run on the inside line. Down the pit straight, up towards Paddock Bend, and can Josh Herring overturn this move on Riley Robinson? Right round the outside, Robinson's dallying. Oh, Herring nearly got him on the outside there. And he was very lucky that he didn't suddenly get a slap of a tank on the side of his bike there. So Josh Herring has to wait a moment before Riley Robinson holds his position for the time being. Really tricky stuff between these two riders, but it really is a fantastic stuff for all of the contenders. So the marshals just making sure everybody's okay there, resetting to their original position. No worries at all there for the Orange Army. As third position, Riley Robertson still trying to get away from Josh Herring. There is nothing to choose between them realistically in terms of one lap pace. They're very even at the moment. And so it looks to me as though all of the excitement factor from the race victory has rather sadly been fizzled out. But this man is going to try and give us a bit of an excitement round the far side. Josh Herring, no way can he finish that round the outside of Riley Robertson. But well done to him for giving it a go regardless. Side by side out of Coward Summit. Oh my word, Josh Herring was very determined there. Couldn't quite finish the job on Riley Robertson. And in these conditions where it's not quite wet and not quite dry, that was a gamble too far for Josh Herring, but he was absolutely resolute in his mindset to get ahead. So we might still see some magic from him before the checkered flag falls. Certainly a very motivated Josh Herring, but this man has just been dominant. Max Robertson, way out in front, enjoying life in the lead, unchallenged by his peers. Matthew Thomas was going to be his only main challenge, really, in this race, and that fizzled out in just half a minute. Still, Robertson versus Herring. Now we know that Josh Herring has the mentality. Can he take this all the way round at the top of Pentith Climb? Keep his hand on the throttle, open up the taps around the far side, drop down Coward Summit, and go right round the outside. This time he's stronger. Can he keep it? Long way round, and he's done it! Absolutely incredible from Josh Herring, but back to the inside line comes Riley Robertson. No, you don't! Josh Herring slam dunks him round the far side out of Pit Bend and Paddock Bend. Oh, wonderful! Josh Herring absolutely monsters into third position, exactly the way it needed to be. That was very, very tough indeed to complete. But for Josh Herring, he knew exactly what was required of him, and he delivered. Max Robertson, meanwhile, is on the last lap, about half a minute up the road from those two. He's 10 seconds clear of Leo Soliu. He dropped his pace by about 5 seconds per lap. His first lap was at 1:55 to build that gap, and ever since then, he's just been ticking off the laps. He hasn't really been pushing at all. He didn't need to. A very smart ride from Max Robertson. Out in the lead. Why push harder than you have to? As he's going to bring this home for a perfectly clean victory. No worries at all for Max Robertson, and certainly showcasing his skill and his ability. And look at how much Riley Robertson was holding up Josh Herring in that battle. Now that Herring has been released, he's been able to pull a few seconds clear. But Max Robertson, unchallenged at the head of the field, has come through for a checkered flag. What a result here at Three Sisters. Max Robertson takes the victory then ahead of Leo Soliu, Josh Herring in third ahead of Riley Robertson, Austin Wilton, and then William Dickinson ahead of Charlie Dickinson. But we all still feel for Matthew Thomas what might have been for the pole sitter. We were truly robbed of a battle royale. There is going to be a battle, though, in the Superminis as they head out onto the circuit. It's going to be a great battle. Lawrence Wardle and Louis Smith on the front row of the grid from Michael Med and Leo Caulfield. Then Andre Tudea and Jake Smith. Charlie Cunningham is back, this time in 7th on the grid alongside Phil Dickens. Joe Mills and Alex Clark will round out the top 10 ahead of Paul Jennings and Andrew Jones. Then it's Tyler Hartley and Lee Thompson, with Liam Whiteley and Dan Baker taking up the last positions on the starting grid. Now, Lawrence Wardle came through for the victory in the first race yesterday here at Three Sisters, so it'll be interesting to see what will happen in the second. And it's a lot of riders here that could certainly take that to them. A lot of battles to come. Several riders missing from the start of this one. Caulfield, Tudea and Smith are not there, so that gives Charlie Cunningham the chance to shoot up from 7th on the grid into, is that second? Charlie Cunningham has shot forward. Well, excellent start then from Cunningham behind Lawrence Wardle. But this is going to be yet another one of those type of races where we're going to have a lot of battles between riders just trying to get themselves into a confident position. Michael Med is now third behind Cunningham. And that's Phil Dickens. Joe Mills is in there with Alex Clark, so they're having a really tasty battle at the start of this one. And look at the legs on Charlie Cunningham, who is already starting to find his way through as he charges down the straight, and he's going to try and take the lead here. He does. So Charlie Cunningham heads the field ahead of Lawrence Wardle. There's still so much to play for in this race, but Charlie Cunningham could make this a double trouble result. Can he make it 2 wins out of 2 starts here at Three Sisters? Wow. Charlie Cunningham leading the race here at Three Sisters after an epic charge forward from 7th on the grid. Admittedly, there were 3 absentees from the start. Leo Caulfield, Andre Todea and Jake Smith were not on the grid, so that certainly gave him a clearer run. But charging through to the lead is exactly what he has managed to achieve. So very good stuff indeed then from Charlie Cunningham. He's washed out! Charlie Cunningham drops in at Luna! Almost identical to what we saw earlier on. He just carries too much throttle, the bike drops out from under him, and Charlie Cunningham goes from hero to 0. I cannot believe it. Charlie Cunningham throws away the lead. And so now the new race leader is Alex Clark. It was Wardle and Med battling away for position, but now Clark has shot his way forward. He was in P5 at the start of this race. So Alex Clark is riding beautifully here at Three Sisters to get himself into the lead. Absolutely extraordinary. He's ahead of Wardle and Michael Med. Then it's Jennings, Dickens and Joe Milnes. Well, what a difference a couple of laps makes. Absolutely astonishing to think that Alex Clark, who, let's not forget, on this original starting grid, Alex Clark was P10. There were 3 absentees, obviously, but that still means he started P7. And now here he is in the lead of the race. Excellent recovery from Alex Clark. Michael Med now 2nd. Wardle's really struggling. He's actually dropped behind Paul Jennings, and I think he may be struggling for big pace. His last lap was a 109.2 compared to the other riders around him. Everybody's now in the 107s and 108s. He's going to be in trouble from Dickens. He's going to be in big trouble from Milnes and Tyler Hartley. So he's got to pick up the pace if he wants to stay in the top 5. Lawrence Wardle, the winner yesterday, really struggling to find grip today. They must have set the bike up slightly askew, because now he's really struggling to keep back Phil Dickens. Phil Dickens with a chance to move forward. But in typical Supermini and MiniGP 17 style, it's all to play for, and there's a big shuffle of the deck almost every lap here as Wardle tries to work his way further forward. There's Charlie Cunningham back on the bike. Now you're allowed to get back on in the senior categories. You're not allowed to in the junior categories. That's why Matthew Thomas was out on the spot earlier on when he crashed in the Road to MotoGP class, and that's another fall. Well, there were going to be a couple of them for sure, and I'm afraid that is absolute disaster for Paul Jennings. He just drops it down the order now. So Paul Jennings, who was as high as 3rd behind Michael Med, is now going to drop behind Wardle, Dickens, Milnes and Tyler Hartley. He's got going again, but he's down now in 8th position. Not good news for Paul Jennings. And it shows you how tricky it is out there for these riders, as we saw one of the MiniGP 17 bikes, that's Tyler Hartley, trying to work his way further forward. New class, of course, coming in, hopefully going to have a decent grid for 2026. But the number 10 bike, Tyler Hartley, trying to mix it in amongst the Super Minis. So this is a very tricky course now. This is almost like a jet ski race. Every lap, the circuit is changing. Lap to lap to lap. You don't know from one lap to the next what the pace is going to be and how much grip you're actually going to have. So we've had 2 big falls already here. But Alex Clark is your new race leader. Is that Wardle in 2nd now? Yes, it is. So Wardle, I missed that, sorry. Wardle is now in front of Michael Med. So these two having a great race. This is Dickens and Milnes, absolutely at each other's throats. 25 thousandths of a second as they came across the line. And Dickens was on the timing beacon just in front. But it is Joe Milnes who's now in front. He's managed to make the overtake on Dickens. And then that's Tyler Hartley behind them. So up to 4th position then goes Joe Milnes. Through Paddock Bend. He's got a lot of work to do to catch up to Wardle and Med. There is Med in the distance. just trying to tippy-toe his way through. He's only about 4 seconds up the road, but that's a lot in British minibike terms. So it looks like it's going to be Alex Clark just steadily pulling clear and chipping away at the fastest lap times. Alex Clark doing a great job out in the front positions. Everybody else just trying to tuck their way through. That was Liam Whiteley there on the 325. That's the other of the MiniGP 17 bikes in the mix there. He was just chasing after Dan Baker and Andrew Jones. And now trying to get through onto the inside line. Well, the camera's cut away because we've got a great battle for fourth place still cooking. Joe Milnes, Phil Dickens and Tyler Hartley as they come through. And Alex Clark, by the way, has just set a 105.3, so another new fastest lap. That tells us that the circuit is getting considerably quicker than it was. And Wardle has now found the confidence in the bike to not only get ahead of Michael Med, but his sector times are getting pretty rapid. He could catch up to Alex Clark here before the end. 12 laps of racing in this particular category. So you've got a lot of time to do a lot of damage, but can Wardle hunt down Alex Clark? You can see the slide of the bike there from Tyler Hartley on the braking for Lucy's Valley. Gets it done into the S's. And still a very tight battle here for fourth position between Joe Milnes, Phil Dickens and Tyler Hartley. But Alex Clark is the form maker out front. He's got a decent 5 seconds or so in front of everybody else. Alex Clark is your man leading the way. Lawrence Wardle second, Michael Med in third position. Lawrence Wardle's just done a 104.7. He's 7/10 of a second quicker than Alex Clark, so he's got the gap down to 4.6. If he can do that for the next 5 laps, he's going to catch him and pass him. So what can Alex Clark do now in response? He's got to retaliate with a similar kind of lap time. So it's going to be very interesting from here on out. But fourth position still looks relatively comfortable as Tyler Hartley is putting pressure on Phil Dickens for fifth. But Joe Milnes doesn't have too much to worry about here in fourth position. He can just keep himself to himself. Tyler Hartley again tries to get into the top 5 on the lone MGP 17 bike in the top 10. There is another rider in the race. That is Liam Whiteley, who we saw briefly earlier on. He's running ahead of Andrew Jones and Louis Smith. But definitely off the pace of these guys, who, let's be fair to the Superminis, they do have slightly wider tyres than those MiniGP 17 bikes, which certainly helps in terms of traction in these conditions as Michael Med goes through on the treble 7 bike. And then it's these three again, Milnes, Dickens, Hartley, 4th, 5th, 6th. But nobody is a match for Alex Clark and Lawrence Wardle up front. They're lapping 3 seconds a lap faster than anybody else at the moment, but Clark has responded to Wardle. He's done a 104.4 compared to Lawrence Wardle on a 104.6, with everybody else in the 107s and the 108s. So very good work indeed from Alex Clark, and he is now thwarting the onslaught from Lawrence Wardle. Now can Tyler Hartley pick this up on Phil Dickens? He's going to have to work very hard to get ahead. A lot of concentration is going to be required here if he wants the overtake. But it is not easy to find a gap, and he doesn't have a lot of rubber on the road, even by comparison to Phil Dickens' Supermini in front of him. So he's just got to feel the balance and feel the instinct of these fabulous bikes. I love the appearance of these MiniGP 17 bikes. They are so cool to look at. Tyler Hartley trying to get decent traction off the turn. This is where the speed advantage will kick in. But he hasn't quite got what it takes. He just needs to hang back to be confident going through Pentith Climb and down Coward Summit. But of course, Tyler Hartley just focusing on the MiniGP 17 category. No worries at all as far as the class victory is concerned, because Liam Whiteley, his only other opposition, is a good half a minute down the road from him. So he certainly doesn't have to worry about that. But this is for pride for Tyler Hartley. He wants to take on Phil Dickens and beat him. It's one of the things I love the most about British mini bikes, inter-class racing. You do get different riders who get the chance in conditions like this to run on an even playing field, and it gives you a really entertaining battle. There is Joe Milnes, still just taking it in his stride in 4th position, not overriding. What about Charlie Cunningham? Well, he's elevated himself up to 8th place now. So he's certainly made a decent recovery after dropping it from the lead, but he's not got a lot of time left, and I think he's just going to run out of opportunities to move his way up into the top 6. I think he's just going to run out of time. He's currently in 8th place, but he won't have a lot of time to move further forward. There is Alex Clark on the 43 bike, just working his way through the traffic, lapping Andrew Jones and Louis Smith. Just got to take his time. The last thing he needs is to trip over one of these back markers. He's already seen Charlie Cunningham drop it from the lead. He doesn't want to be the next one to do so. Just take your time. You've got 5 seconds on Lawrence Wardle. He doesn't go for the move there on the inside of Andrew Jones. He'll wait. He'll give himself the opportunity. He'll take his time. This has been an amazing ride from Alex Clark. Don't forget, he started in P10. And okay, there were 3 riders missing on the grid as he goes into the last lap. Those 3 riders elevated him to P7, but he still went from 7th to 2nd in essentially a lap and a half, and then took the lead on that 2nd lap and has never looked back since. Absolutely amazing from Alex Clark. The kind of ride that he will remember for a long, long time here. There are still battles all down the length and breadth of the grid. Riders still trying to make a play. Charlie Cunningham desperately trying to close up on Lee Thompson to get ahead. But I think he's going to have to settle for 8th position. He won't get any more than that. But Alex Clark is tippy-toeing his way through to Luna for the last time. It's been an absolutely immaculate ride for Alex Clark, and he will take the 25 points for the victory out of the final turn from 10th on the grid to the victory for Alex Clark. The checkered flag flies. What a ride here at Three Sisters in front of Lawrence Wardle and Michael Med.
The full result in the Supermini class, top 10 looks like this, with Alex Clark winning from Lawrence Wardle and Michael Med. Then came Joe Milnes, Phil Dickens, Lee Thompson, Charlie Cunningham, Paul Jennings, Dan Baker and Louis Smith. Tyler Hartley won the MiniGP 17-inch class. That's all the action from part 1 of the British Minibikes Championship here at Wigan. Join us shortly for part 2.